It was another Tuesday morning, and the disciples gathered at their usual location, Panera Bread, for Theology Cafe and their morning cup of coffee. With Ash Wednesday only a day away, their topic of discussion was, of course, the lectionary for the next day's services. As they discussed the gospel reading, Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, they began recalling what Jesus had said to them on that mount so many centuries ago. Beware of practicing piety before others in order to be seen by them, for then you have no reward from your Father in heaven. Peter reminded them that it was here that Jesus had charged them to strive for piety through the practice of almsgiving, prayer, and fasting. Matthew quickly interrupted, making a point to inform the others that the Greek word piety, which he had used in his gospel, could be translated as righteousness and justice, as found in their Kindle and RSV Bibles. Thomas slyly retorted, "Matthew, we don't doubt you know your own gospel's translation." As they began to ponder and discuss Jesus' charge to them to practice almsgiving, prayer, and fasting in secret to their God who was in secret, who saw in secret, and who rewarded them in secret, they tried to remember back to the culture in which Jesus had addressed them. With all the drastic changes in culture over the vast amount of time and space that they had experienced along the way, the disciples had to stop and think about the first century Mediterranean culture, which they had come from when they were with Jesus. Simon, known as the Zealot, began reminding them that in those days it was common practice to perform righteous acts in the streets where all could see. For a person to perform righteous acts in public, such as almsgiving, prayer, or fasting, which Jesus had highlighted, would allow that person to be perceived as righteous within his or her own community, turning righteous acts, which were meant for the glory of God, into selfish acts enacted for the sole desire of personal gain. Yes, Matthew continued, as I recall, this was a real problem at the time I was writing my gospel. But how do we look at this today in relation to Ash Wednesday? For on the Mount, Jesus warned us that whenever you fast, do not look dismal like the hypocrites, for they disfigure their faces as to show that they are fasting. Will we not be disfiguring our own faces tomorrow when we receive ashes on our foreheads and then be going back into the world, to beggars, the YMCA, the BX, where our community members will be watching us as we strut around with righteousness crossed on our foreheads? For Jesus told us to do all these things in secret, so that we may not be seen by others, but by our Father who is in secret, who sees in secret, and who will reward us in secret. I am not looking for the reward of social ranking. As a disciple of Christ, I desire God's reward, which is right relationship with him and with my fellow man. So how is it that I should be viewing this passage? Matthew wondered. In relation to the ashes I will be receiving tomorrow. Just then, a man who had been sitting by the fire, intently listening to their conversation, came over and joined in. The man was quite tan. He had longer, messy-looking hair and was wearing jeans and a t-shirt that said, "Free hugs," across the front. As he came over to the group, he greeted them saying, "Peace be with you," and he then commenced to embrace each one. Then he looked at Matthew and said, "Of course you desire God's reward as a disciple of his Son, Jesus Christ. So do all the other Christians who attend Ash Wednesday services all around the world, going back into their own communities. As you noted, cultural norms have changed greatly over the centuries, and practices that were misused and enacted to heighten one's social gain so long ago have ceased to exist in the same manner today. People today do not go out in the streets practicing pious acts to win the favors of their fellow community members. No. Quite the contrary, as I'm sure you have noticed. Today, many people think they have to hide their religion. Pious acts performed in public would not win anyone's favors. Instead, it would win them glaring eyes, judgmental whispers, and confused looks. So what does it look like today to go out in public with a disfigured face, wearing a cross of ashes on your forehead for all to see? Do you think this goes against God and his desire for you? The man asked. Matthew replied, well, the ashes symbolize our death, our fate as sinful humans, and the cross symbolizes Jesus' death on the cross, allowing us to be born again through his resurrection. Which makes it all really about God and our need for his almighty power, mercy, and love. For we may wear the cross, but only as a symbol that we have died to ourselves, so that we might be reborn through Christ and his salvation, making it about God and not about ourselves. This is what Jesus was teaching about on that mount that day, wasn't it? Matthew asked. Yes, Matthew, I believe it was, the man replied. It is about God, for those ashes symbolize death to oneself and resurrected life through the cross. It's not about them at all. It's about God and his ultimate sacrifice of his only begotten Son. John, known as the beloved disciple, joined in. And it's about right relationship, isn't it? Right, John, the man responded. John continued, it is through the cross and Jesus that we are able to enter into right relationship with God and with our fellow human beings. This is also what Jesus was pointing to today on that mount. The man looked at John with joy in his eyes. Yes, exactly. John went on, that is why Jesus told us to give alms, pray, and fast in secret to our God who is in secret, so that we might be rewarded in secret, with the reward of right relationship with him and with others. Jesus taught us about another aspect of gaining right relationship that day on the mount as well. John went on. He told us, do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust consume, and where thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust consume, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasures are, there your heart will be also. Oh, yes, I remember that. They all nodded in agreement. James, known as the elder and brother of John, responded, yes, and this seems to be quite relevant to the culture we find ourselves in today. With the overpowering consumeristic culture surrounding us everywhere we turn, it is hard to remember that our treasures should be stored in heaven and not on earth. It must be quite hard, James, the man replied. But the true treasures are in God, his power, love, and mercy, as you will find them in relationship with him through the Son. And this is the greatest reward of all. It truly is, isn't it? James responded. As long as I look towards God and keep my eye on the prize, I can remember where the true treasures lie. That is why I love this time of year, as we enter into the season of Lent. When I receive my ashes tomorrow, I will be saying symbolically that I am dying to myself, as I am preparing myself to enter into Lent, a time of reflection and meditation to remember where the true treasures are in my relationship with God through Christ and his ultimate sacrifice on the cross. And I can use this time to strengthen my relationship with him through almsgiving, prayer, and fasting. The man interrupted, exactly. You can give things up or take things on, start new practices, whatever it is that draws you closer to God and strengthens your relationship with him, reminding you that it isn't about you, it's about God and his glory. The disciples began discussing what they would be doing for Lent, taking on things such as the Episcopal Relief Development Lenten Devotional, which they could blog about on the CHS website, or joining the Sunday Soup and Lessons, where they could learn about new ministries and take on those ministries in their own lives. They discussed and shared all the things they would be taking on and giving up and practicing to strengthen their relationship with God and bring glory to Him over the next 40 days. When Matthew noticed that the man had gone, they wondered, who was that man? Could it have been the resurrected Christ? Thomas did not want to doubt the Lord again. They did not know, but they did know that the man helped them remember Jesus' words and his message to them that day on the mount. And furthermore, he helped them to see the significance of the meaning behind the words Jesus had spoken that day. Oh, so many centuries ago, in the context of today and the Ash Wednesday service we would soon attend. They were reminded of the importance behind the time they were about to be given in the 40 days and nights of Lent, to work on and strengthen their relationship with God, His glory, so that they could continue to store their treasures in heaven with the Father,